get to know Ji-woo, the outsider at a fancy private high school. He befriends Hak-sung, the school's security guard, and asks him for help with math and to be pals. But things get rocky between them after some school drama. Stick until the end to see Hak-sung's true identity. Welcome to your daily dose of Movie Pill. Today, we will be looking at the 2022 movie titled Our Pride. Spoilers ahead, and let's dive right in. In South Korea's top high school, where the elite 1% hang out, Han Ji-woo just doesn't fit in. Back in his old school, he was the brainiac, but here, surrounded by geniuses, he's barely fitting in, especially in math, the holy grail for college admissions. He's struggling big time. I guess he was pretty lucky to get into this super prestigious high school. His classmates are loaded, so they can splash out on tutors and camps, but Ji-woo's on student welfare and can't swing that. His math teacher, Mr. Kim Gwen-ho, tells him straight up that his grades won't cut it for a top college, and hints that he should think about transferring. One night, Ji-woo's roomies chip in so he can sneak out and grab snacks and booze for the gang. But on his way back, Ji-woo gets busted by the night guard, Lee Hak-sung. The next morning, Mr. Kim tries to squeeze him for info on who else was in on the plan, but Ji-woo keeps mum, sticking to his loyalty code. This grabs the attention of his classmate, Park Bo-ram, but it also gets Ji-woo kicked out of the dorms for a bit. After class, Ji-woo's roommates try to hand him some cash to show their appreciation, but they're surprised when Ji-woo turns it down, saying they're pals. They chat about finding other ways to smuggle in late night snacks, but it's been a no-go since Hak-sung became the guard. They joke about calling him the commie officer because he's defected from North Korea. No less expected from a prestigious high school security guard. Later, Hak-sung heads to the doctor, who tells him that being a night guard isn't great for his health. Using sleeping pills throws off his body clock. Hak-sung mentions it's the only job he can land as a defector, so unless the doc can line up something else, he's sticking with the pills. Later, Hak-sung goes back to his quiet apartment. He spends his time feeding his turtle, enjoying strawberry milk, and solving Sudoku puzzles. The next day, Ji-woo gets kicked out of the dorms. Bo-ram gives him a hard time on his way out, joking that she thought he could be more than a loser, but it seems she was wrong. Don't kick a man when he's already down. There's no need to be that mean, ma'am. A couple of hours later, Ji-woo is back at his family's apartment, giving it a good clean before his mom gets back from work. She's a widow who's already worked her tail off to take care of him, so she beams with pride seeing her son in that important uniform. Not wanting to worry his mom, Ji-woo fibs and says he's just dropping by for a visit, and he needs to get back to school before it gets too late. On his way back, it starts pouring rain. Ji-woo tries to seek shelter in the school's deserted lab, but Hak-sung catches him, feeling sympathetic when he finds out Ji-woo has nowhere to crash. The guard invites him back to his office. While Ji-woo is asleep, Hak-sung discovers the extremely challenging math homework that Ji-woo couldn't complete. At the crack of dawn, Hak-sung wakes Ji-woo up and sends him packing. When Ji-woo gets to his math class, he's stunned to find that Hak-sung has not only completed his homework, but also gotten all the answers right. Who would have thought that the security guard is that smart? Bo-ram spots what's going on and wants Ji-woo to spill the beans to the teacher, but he begs her to keep it under wraps. After class, Ji-woo goes to thank Hak-sung for the help and asks him to give him a lesson, but Hak-sung just kicks him out again. Later in the study room, Ji-woo overhears that even classmates' private tutors struggle with some of these math problems, showing how impressive Hak-sung really is. Ji-woo starts trailing him, begging for some tutoring, but Hak-sung keeps brushing him off. One afternoon, while he's taking out the trash, Hak-sung overhears the teachers chatting about students on welfare with parents who couldn't care less, and Mr. Kim lumps Ji-woo into that category. When Ji-woo comes up to him again asking for tutoring, Hak-sung suggests it might be smarter to switch schools. He warns Ji-woo against getting too caught up in feeling sorry for himself, because it only leads to dwelling on the negatives. Ji-woo vents about his frustration with the unequal opportunities, and it hits home for Hak-sung. Eventually, he gives in and agrees to tutor Ji-woo, but with a quirky request: payment in strawberry milk. Strawberry milk as payment for tutoring seems really amazing to me. The next day, Hak-sung drops by his friend An Ji-shol's place, who helped him settle into South Korea since he's in charge of supporting North Korean defectors in Seoul. They hang out, playing board games and shooting the breeze. When Ji-shol gives Hak-sung the lamps he needed as a gift, Hak-sung refuses to accept them for free, saying he didn't come to this country looking for charity. When night comes, Hak-sung stashes the lamps in the abandoned lab so he can teach Ji-woo there on the down low. He lays out 3 rules for Ji-woo: keep these classes under wraps, stick to math questions only, and no talk about grades or tests insists Haksung's just here to teach math. After Jiwoo promises to play by the rule, Haksung throws him the first challenge, figuring out the area of a triangle. Jiwoo nails it quickly, saying it's basic stuff from middle school, but Haksung throws a curveball by drawing a circle around the triangle. Feeling tricked, Jiwoo protests, saying Haksung gave him the wrong question, but Haksung's point is that Jiwoo needs to approach problem solving differently. Yeah, getting the answer is important, but understanding what the question's asking is even more crucial. When Jiwoo shows that he gets the concept, Haksung gives it the nickname Epsilon, remembering how he and a buddy scored a fancy pen as a prize for their academic success. Epsilon basically means something tiny and insignificant. After class, since Jiwoo still has no place to go, Haksung agrees to let him stay over. Jiwoo learns that Haksung is into classical music, and they chat about composers for a while, which conveniently sidetracks Haksung from answering Jiwoo's nosy questions about his past. The cassette player is all worn out, and the sound quality is awful, so Jiwoo switches to playing the songs on his phone, which amazes Haksung. Thanks to the better sound, Haksung manages to sleep deeply for the first time in ages. In fact, he snoozes until late the next morning. When he finally wakes up, Jiwoo has already taken off for class. I'm glad to see Haksung finally get some good night's sleep. He deserves it. Mr. Kim springs some big news onto his math crew. Instead of finals, they're diving into the prestigious Pythagoras math competition, which will stand in for their exam. The teens aren't exactly thrilled. They've only got 2 months to prep, but Mr. Kim's banking on them all bagging the gold. Meanwhile, Jiwoo's hitting up Haksung daily for math lessons. Bo Ram can't help but notice Jiwoo's constant craving for strawberry milk, almost like he's hooked on it. One evening, Jiwoo faces a really tough problem he's grappling with, but instead of giving him an easy way out, Haksung insists he figure it out the old-fashioned way, by hand. After 3 hours of sweat and struggle, Jiwoo finally cracks it. Impressed, Haksung shares something cool. The famous mathematician Bernard Riemann once calculated 38 decimal places of the square root of 2 by hand to really get the hang of it. It goes to show, understanding the process is more than just memorizing formulas. This really helps you get math better. Haksung won't give Jiwoo a straight answer on whether he's right or wrong. He thinks Jiwoo should figure it out himself. That's what mathematicians do. With each passing week, Jiwoo's getting sharper at math day by day. Amazing news, everyone! Our little loser is finally getting better at math. One afternoon, Jiwoo gets some really tough news. A close buddy from the welfare crew is ditching and going back to their old school, saying this place isn't worth it. Now Jiwoo's got some serious thinking to do about his own situation. Bo Ram tries to listen, but he feels like she's just teasing him. She says that they're in the same boat, but he knows she's actually well off. Their talk gets interrupted when Bo Ram's mom shows up to give her a ride. Once they're in the car, Bo Ram catches an earful for hanging out with a kid from the welfare crowd. Bo Ram's also technically on welfare because her parents are divorced, but she's not getting financial aid like Jiwoo, so it's not exactly the same. Her mom gives her an earful for jamming to piano tunes instead of hitting the books. To keep her on track, she's hired Mr. Kim as Bo Ram's private tutor, even though it's against the rule. Later that night, Jiwoo spills the beans to Haksung about his friend's situation and debates whether he should make a run for it too. Haksung tells him not to give up and reminds him that it's not just about being smart, but also about having the guts to see things through till the end. To make his point, he shows Jiwoo the exercises he marked up. While there are a couple of mistakes in the final solutions, Jiwoo has nailed down the process to solve them. That same night, Jiwoo's suspension ends, so he's back in the dorm, but he admits he kinda misses rooming with Haksung. The next day, Bo Ram makes amends with Jiwoo, offering him strawberry milk and a note of apology. Curious, she tags along when he heads to the abandoned lab and uncovers his secret. After expressing gratitude to Haksung for taking care of Jiwoo, she asks if she can drop by from time to time, promising to keep it hush-hush. Haksung agrees, as long as she keeps it on the down low too. Bo Ram also teasingly calls him the commie officer, which confuses Haksung. Despite being from North Korea, he never served in the military. He got a pass, for some reason he keeps to himself. Suddenly, they spot a group of students sneaking around the campus. Remembering Jiwoo's previous troubles, Haksung decides not to get involved. Another night, Jiwoo asks Haksung why he's been so keen about math. He tells Jiwoo that he started out studying math for the scholarship and to help his family, but as he learned more, he found it incredibly beautiful and fell in love with it. Later, they get Bo Ram to join Haksung at the piano. He shows her a cool trick. By assigning notes to each digit, they create a beautiful melody playing the number pi. Wow, I never knew you could play such a beautiful melody with just pure math. In the next class, Jiwoo uses the logic Haksung taught him to correct Mr. Kim's answer to an exercise. However, Mr. Kim reprimands him for it. He explains that while Jiwoo's answer may be correct, it's not what the examiner was looking for. According to Mr. Kim, students should focus on providing the solution that is expected rather than the one that is actually right. Mr. Kim stresses the importance of test techniques, but Jiwoo pushes back, stating he'll still give the right answer on the test. Finding Jiwoo's attitude rude, Mr. Kim punishes him by making him stand outside the door for the rest of class. Afterward, Jiwoo Ji-woo tells Mr. Kim he's decided against transferring. That's right, Ji-woo, show your resilience. Later that afternoon, during one of Hak-sung's visits, Ji-shol hands him a smartphone to make it easier to reach him. Excited, Hak-sung shows Ji-woo the new gadget. Ji-woo can't help but notice him struggling to read lengthy papers on the small screen. To lend a hand, Ji-woo asks a classmate to sneak him into the computer lab. There, he prints out the entire document and surprises Hak-sung with it as a gift. The Pythagoras test is set for the next day. Ji-woo is rocking it thanks to Hak-sung's help, but Bo-ram hits a snag. At first, she's doing okay, remembering the music trick, but then she gets frustrated. The pressure gets too much for her, and she storms out of the classroom without finishing the exam. Her mom makes her lay low to avoid embarrassment, telling the school that they're going on a trip. Ji-woo's text to her go unanswered. Later that evening, Ji-woo and Hak-sung hit up a classical concert. Bo-ram hooked them up with free tickets because her family's company is sponsoring the event. Bo-ram doesn't turn up, but the concert hits Hak-sung so hard that he's in tears. Afterwards, Hak-sung invites Ji-woo over for dinner at his place, and it dawns on Ji-woo that it's the first time he's seen Hak-sung eat. That same night, someone leaks the Pythagoras test online, throwing the teachers into a panic. They're scrambling to find the student responsible before the education board starts swinging the axe. As Ji-woo and Hak-sung browse the bookstore, a stranger spots Hak-sung. They strike up a conversation, and it turns out the guy's from North Korea too, remembering their university days. The man also hails Hak-sung as a math whiz, and assumes Ji-woo is his son, making things a tad awkward. Hak-sung swiftly thanks the guy for the chat and bolts out of the store, dodging Ji-woo's questions. Back home, Hak-sung reflects on the good times he shared with his son, Lee Tae-yeon. They used to do everything together, eating dinner, getting their pet turtle, and grabbing strawberry milk because it was Tae-yeon's favorite. Oh, that's why Hak-sung loves strawberry milk so much. No wonder. The next day, there's some major news on TV. They're on the brink of cracking the Riemann hypothesis, a super tough math problem, thanks to a famous North Korean mathematician named Lee Hak-sung. But it's still under review by a bunch of experts. On the TV screen, Professor Oh shares a story from his childhood about bumping into Hak-sung during a math Olympiad. Hak-sung was repping the North, while Oh was on the South's team. They both got a cool pen from a famous mathematician, and Oh still got his after all these years. Both Ji-shol and Ji-woo catch wind of the news, but it's Ji-woo who hunts down Hak-sung first and asks him about it. But Hak-sung gets all worked up and tells Ji-woo to never bring up the Riemann hypothesis again. Right now, Mr. Kim's in a bit of a pickle over the test thing. His reputation is at stake, but thanks to a coworker checking security tapes following some student gossip, he's off the hook. The next day, Mr. Kim gives Ji-woo a buzz to watch a clip of him sneaking out of the computer lab with papers. Ji-woo tries to explain that it's not connected, but he's got no way to prove it. With the tape showing otherwise and his sudden math genius, nobody's buying it. So, Mr. Kim gives him an offer. If Ji-woo agrees to transfer, he won't spill the beans publicly. Sadly, everyone hears the rumor about Ji-woo leaking info, which really upsets Bo-ram because she knows what actually happened. On another note, Ji-shol's dealing with some issues too. North Korea is mad that South Korea is taking credit for Hak-sung's achievement, especially in military encryption. So, the NIS wants Ji-shol to convince Hak-sung to go on TV and set the record straight. Hak-sung's name is plastered all over the news now, and to add to the drama, an old colleague swings by, suggesting they head back to the North together. But then, this guy messes up big time by admitting he's hoping to score some forgiveness himself by bringing Hak-sung along. To make things even worse, he brings up what happened to Hak-sung's son, which just ticks off Hak-sung even more. Yeah, I would get mad too. North Korea doesn't sound like a fun place to go. Ji-shol swings by Hak-sung's place to apologize for not keeping the NIS off his case, but Hak-sung's cool about it, appreciating all the years of having his back. While Hak-sung's getting ready to leave town, Ji-shol hands back a document with his research that Hak-sung had tried to ditch ages ago. Ji-shol saved it because he knew it was too valuable to trash. Right then, Ji-woo shows up too, but decides to wait outside when he hears shouting. Hak-sung's really mad because he believes this research is what got his son killed, so he won't agree to put it on TV. After Ji-shol leaves, Ji-woo tries to talk to Hak-sung, but the old man just lashes out, insisting they're nothing more than a tutor and student. Later, Ji-woo gets a call from a worried Bo-ram, who can't figure out why he's letting them pin things on him. He just says it's done and hangs up. Meanwhile, at the bus station, Hak-sung spots someone who looks like his son. It brings back memories of the night Tae-yeon died. After getting into another fight while standing up for other defectors, Tae-yeon begins arguing with his dad. He accused him of running off to the south for selfish reasons, especially since he didn't do it when his mom was sick with tuberculosis. Hak-sung insisted he did it to give his son a better life, but Tae-yeon shot back, saying working low-end jobs and being treated like dirt wasn't exactly an upgrade for a scholar. After telling his dad to enjoy his math-filled life, Tae-yeon ran off and tried to swim back to the north, but the border patrol shot him on the spot. The next morning, he hands over the papers to Mr. Kim, who tells him he did the right thing. Hak-sung is laying low in a hotel while Ji-shol is out searching for him to take him to the TV show. He's surprised when Bo-ram calls him to spill the beans about Ji-woo's transfer. That afternoon rolls around, and it's time for the Pythagoras prestigious award ceremony. Ji-woo's about to head out of the school when Bo-Ram pops up and yanks him into the auditorium, swiping his stuff as she does. Professor Oh kicks off the ceremony with a speech about the newly proven theory. Right then, Hak-sung storms in, having rushed over after setting his turtle free in the river. He shows his pen to prove it's him, and Professor Oh welcomes him with open arms, letting him give a speech too. After cracking a joke about his guard days, Hak-sung spills the beans. He admits that he's the one who taught Ji-woo math and shows the printed thesis to prove Ji-woo's innocence. Then, he drops the bombshell that it was Mr. Kim who leaked the test to his private students, leaving Mr. Kim red-faced and storming off in a huff. Justice might not be swift, but it always comes in perfect timing. Next up, Hak-sung spills his story. He bolted from North Korea to study math the right way because his government was using his work for making weapons. He just wanted his math skills to help folks find jobs and land in good colleges. But his greed for progress ended up costing him his son's life. Feeling ashamed of his past choices, Hak-sung sees Ji-woo's unwavering loyalty and support, even if it meant sacrificing his own future. Tearfully, Hak-sung apologizes and thanks Ji-woo for believing in him. Meanwhile, Ji-shol, who's been listening in, is moved by Hak-sung's words. He quietly slips out without mentioning the TV interview, but waits outside to offer Hak-sung a ride. After ditching the smartphone he gave him, Ji-shol pulls out a big surprise for Hak-sung, a shiny new passport declaring him a South Korean citizen, and tickets to skip town, so the NIS can't track him down for a while. Ji-shol knows he might get the boot for it, but he figures it's worth the risk. A while later, Ji-shol drops by Ji-woo's spot to hand over the gift Hak-sung left for him, the famous pen and the first draft of his thesis. Fast forward 3 years, and Ji-woo and his college buddies are checking out the cool Oberwolfeck Research Institute for Mathematics. And guess who's there? Hak-sung, doing his thing. Ji-woo surprises him with some strawberry milk and a big hug before they get into a deep math discussion. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on this wild ride through the adventures of Han Ji-woo and his gang at South Korea's elite high school. From struggles with math to uncovering deep secrets, we've seen it all. I rate this movie a 7.5 out of 10. Comment down below what you would rate it. Looks like this movie pill is starting to wear off. But don't worry, there's always more where that came from. Tap here to keep the effects going with this next movie, because who can stop at just one? And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe, because your next movie dose is just a click away.